so the idea was still have the song with that pop rock element to it, but switch out the instruments. And what ended up happening is we ended up with a bluegrass song, with a progressive bluegrass, like, with my clawhammer banjo thrown in there, old
Mm-hmm.
time meets bluegrass, and it was still, I mean, so yeah, it's like that song definitely had a metal influence, but bluegrass is the metal of folk, so it kind of
I
it
love that
it it,
bluegrass is the
abs-
metal
it
of folk.
yeah, I mean, it absolutely makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for doing this, Amythyst. I appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah, I'm happy to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you were on 3 years ago now. I had on the podcast when you put out what
Wearing
album?
Strange. Was that what?
Yes, Very
Yeah,
Strange. It
yeah,
was that album. Yep. When
yeah,
that album came out, we had you on. So I'm excited to kind of, see what's been going on ever since that conversation.
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. I guess it's just been. I mean, things are going pretty good. Um,
Good.
yeah, it's been an interesting, couple of years, 2 or 3 years, just because um touring post pandemic, or I guess sort of during and then post, was that was like that was a really emotionally, mentally taxing few years. And I've just really, over the past like I guess 3 or 4 months now,
Uh-huh.
maybe a little bit more than that. What is time?
Sure.
uh, but I really feel like I'm finally like processed all of that, and am like just feeling like I'm able to, stay in the present a lot more than I have been in the past like several years. I mean, that's been an ongoing issue throughout a huge chunk of my life. And
Uh-huh.
so it was all, but the last couple years, it was like, it was similar to how I felt the 2 years I was in grad school for liberal
Mhm.
studies. And I had really put a lot on myself. And, it was, it was just it's just one of those things where I had a hard time saying no, because
Sure.
I wanted
Yeah.
to take every opportunity I could. I wanted to, like, I was, fully, bought into the achievement society, that we live in. And so, but like, I just I just emotionally hadn't really been able to really establish like boundaries, or really um just have a sense of self, I guess. And I
Yeah.
think, and due to, like, grief and trauma and all that kind of stuff. So it just feels like, after, like, you know, however, what, 8 years in therapy, and then you know, also like getting reacquainted with, like, really working on the more spiritual side of my life. I had kind of neglected
Mhm.
that. And so I had to, like, that was something I realized that I needed to, like, incorporate back into my life, because and really it started by getting into meditation, really for just like the health benefits of it. But then it got me back in touch with, you know, it got me back in touch with the spiritual side of my life, essentially. And so I've been trying to cultivate that. And a big part of it is, learning to live in the present. And I've been reading, like, I've read like, Buddhist and Taoist texts, and I've read Alan Watts, and
Mhm.
like, I like all that stuff was just really resonated with me, but I had a hard time putting it into practice.
Oh,
How can
yeah,
you
it's a
how
hard
can
thing
you
to do.
how can you live in the present when you have ruminating, and you ruminate and have intrusive thoughts about every single horrible thing you've ever did, and then like, how do I and or I think so much about the future that I like beat myself down and put so much pressure on myself so I can get to my future, and then I'm not actually ever, I'm like low key disassociated from everything because I'm, putting so much on myself. And I think it has a lot to do with like feeling like I wanted to be as self reliant as humanly possible, and not really respecting my limits or myself. And then also like allowing the external to kind of rule my decisions instead of like making decisions from within. Like, the past couple years, I also like coped with it by like, going through this self improvement kind of doom spiral where I'm just like,
Sure.
just and like just binge watching all these YouTube videos about like how to be, find the right morning routine, and then find the right nighttime routine, and then find this and that. And it's just like, I'm just like, it's like, how can I put any of this into practice when everybody says something different? Like, how am I
Right.
supposed to, and once I decided to like cut that aspect out of my life, taking YouTube off I love documentaries. Like I grew up like watching PBS and like
Oh,
Animal
same here.
Planet and like Discovery Channel and like, and so like, YouTube, so the internet, being like a child, one of the early children of the internet, we had the family computer when I was 13, and like I just got so obsessed with like learning about stuff. And so
Mhm.
but like at the same time, it's like at some point I have to I have to learn how to live. I have to like there's only so many things I could read about how to do something, or if I'm eating the right food, or if I'm, if this is the right smartwatch I need to wear to track, like just I don't know. It's like
Yeah, it's
it's
so
just
easy to get overwhelmed. It's so
yeah,
easy, you know? Yeah,
yeah,
it's like you
yeah,
watch a million videos and this person's saying this thing, this person's saying thing, you're like, well, what's the right one? Like,
yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
and then you look into, in the once you're into self improvement, then you start looking at, nutrition YouTube, and then like fitness YouTube, and then like inevitably what starts out as a good informative thing turns into drama. It turns into YouTubers attacking one another, and literally having debates where they have all their research papers out so they can point to the right thing that's going to
Oh,
prove their
man.
argument. And I'm like, this is insane. I can't I just can't. This is ruining my life watching this stuff. It's ruining my brain, you know.
100%.
And
100%.
it's just
Yeah.
like I have to just,
Live
you
in the
know,
now.
yeah, so like just, wearing a Casio watch and like, you know, be done with it. Like I don't need the Apple Watch. Sorry Apple. I still have the MacBook and the iPhone. So, but
Still have your other
not do
products, don't worry.
yeah, got all the other ones. But we're gonna get rid of the watch. But yeah, no. So anyway, it's just like finally being able to just you know pull out of that,
Mhm.
and um just kind of yeah, just try to be, being more present. It's been easier to do it now than before, and I am really you know I'm really grateful and happy for where I'm at right now in my life. Despite the trials and tribulations that that I've dealt with over the past 2 or 3 years, like um I'm still very fortunate to have all the people in my life that I have, my
Mhm.
fiance, my dad, my friends, my my band and tour manager, and my management, my booking agent, my label, like, um, it's just like we've all like weathered the storm, and
Mhm.
like I don't know, it's been a rough couple years for all of us,
Sure.
not just me. So
Yeah.
to be able to still, work with these same people, and and everybody's just so encouraging and supportive, and um I think that having the people in my life, in my professional life, and having the people in my personal life, um all of us getting through it, and still being able to, you know um go on this journey together.
Yeah.
So it's really, I just feel really, just really grateful for that.
Yeah, I can
So
relate
yeah.
so much to you're saying. I mean, for me, I'm in 12-step recovery, so like for me, it was like I was future tripping all the time when I got sober, and I was like living in the past, and my sponsor would always tell me, he's like, well, you worry about, Friday's work on Friday. Let's worry about it's Tuesday. Let's worry about what we need to get done on Tuesday. And we'll
That's
we'll,
so
we'll
hard.
figure out
Yeah,
like,
sorry.
we'll figure
Yeah,
out
yeah,
Saturday later or whatever. And it's like, but you
yeah.
don't understand. It's no, 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 no. Stop.
Yeah.
Think about what you're doing right now. What needs to get done today? Let's not worry about what needs to get done in 3 days or 5 days. So like I still have such a hard time with not future tripping or living back in the past, and it's just being in the present is such a hard thing to do. And
Yeah.
yeah, meditation is huge. Yeah, the spiritual aspect, I had none until last few years, and like yeah, it all is so beneficial.
Yeah.
Just to kind of like get out of like get out of yourself in a way. And you know I always think like, do what, like if I'm too much of myself, I have to think like, what can I do for somebody else right now? Because then it'll just get me out of that headspace. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but it's so hard. It's so easy to get wrapped up in it, especially when you're online and you're reading stuff, or you're following this video and then you're doing those things. Then you see another video, they're like, oh shit, I'm doing all this wrong. Like, okay, I gotta go do this thing now. And now you're all totally like, you get back in your head and you're screwed.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. No, yeah, it's yeah, and I think one of the most I would say the most difficult aspect of my life, the most challenging part of my life is being in my being in my late 30s, you know, uh, bought a house with my fiance 2 years ago.
mhm.
Like I'm ready to, you know, I'm in like, you know, I guess biologically I'm in like nesting mode.
Nesting mode, sure.
And meanwhile, the demands of my career are higher,
Uh-huh.
and um you know the travel is, and this is, I know I'm not the only person that says this. I mean, traveling is one of the most challenging aspects of what I do for a living, because
Mhm.
um your sleep patterns are just they're all over the place. um and food wise, I've figured out what I need to eat to feel at my best. And when you're out on the road and your sleep patterns are all over the place, and you're kind of tired at weird times of the day, you want comfort, and you're not fully thinking clearly, so you order a double quarter pounder with cheese.
Yeah, yeah, you do, right, yeah.
You
I wanna
revert
feel
back.
good. This burger will make me feel great
Right.
in the
Like
moment.
you're more willing to take shortcuts when you're tired. I
Sure.
mean, that's kind of we're just hardwired to kind of be that way. And I haven't quite found that discipline to be able to not give into that a little bit, and then,
Mhm.
when I coming back from tour, it's like, and I had this great conversation with the guy that my barber, he's a, um, his name's Jacob Danielson Moore. He's a really awesome singer-songwriter, here in Johnson City, Tennessee. And we had
Mhm.
this like really awesome conversation. And I honestly sometimes this feels isolating too, because like back home, like the people that are close to me in my life are either local musicians or they're not musicians. So what I do is it's very different. And sometimes I feel a little isolated. So I feel a
Mhm.
little isolated when I come back, trying to transition back into like, okay, well, I live here, but like sometimes that, and what I was talking with Jake about, what he brought up, and I really appreciated him bringing it up, was you feel like you're just in and out of people's lives all the time, and you have to like constantly get reacquainted with people that and it's so you're just you're kind of always in this. You have to always have to settle in. Like anytime you go anywhere, you have to settle in a little bit and get comfortable, and it's like you're constantly having to readapt and resettle. And again, I think in my early 30s, late 20s, like definitely in my earlier 20s, but you had like just the youthful exuberance and adrenaline to carry you through, like being able to go a few nights in a row on 4 hours of sleep. Like
Right, right, right.
there's, but like now it's like, you know, and it's just, it's just the way, the way the cards fell, as far as, getting my label debut. I mean, I took my time to get to this point for a reason, so that I could have the team, like the kind of team that I have, that I gushed over earlier. Like,
Mhm.
there's a reason why I took the time that I took, um, being ever the overthinker. Um, and so, yeah, it's like, so really what I had to let go of is the fact that this is what I asked for. This is what I wanted.
Mhm.
And it's a bit bigger than it's bigger than I had ever imagined it was going to be,
Sure.
truly. And
Yeah.
so, um, the new demands that came with that, I, I still wasn't quite up to par with my, time management skills or anything like that. And I still, very much have time blindness. I actually, is my fiance, she was, had gotten clinically diagnosed with ADHD and started doing like, there's like different things that people with ADHD, with neurodivergent brains, there's different little systems that they can do that go with the way that they think.
Mhm.
And one of the things was timing yourself when you're doing work, or when you're trying to do something, to like set a timer for like
Mhm.
25 minutes. And I started doing that, and I'm like, oh wow. So I haven't been like clinically diagnosed with ADHD. So I'm not saying that I have it, but that tool really helped me. And anybody that knows me could tell you that I have time blindness. Like the timers have really improved my ability to train my. So there's ways to, whatever. There's ways to like get around that. But
Yeah.
oh, I lost the plot of what I
No,
was talking about. I got
that
sidetracked. But
no,
anyway,
it makes sense. No. Well, what you
yeah.
said, earlier I thought was really important, where you talked about, the ability to have boundaries and say no, because, last time we spoke with Wearing Strange, I mean, you had Grammy nominations. I mean, there's a lot going on, right? I mean, there's all these things happening, and your career is really going up. And at that point, you're probably like, I got to just say yes to everything because I got to keep this all going, right? Like, I can't, like, I don't want to
Yes.
lose the momentum.
Exactly.
Like, because right when you think
Exactly.
you say no once, where you're like, well, if I say no to that person, then it could all just go away. So you're just in this
Yeah.
mode of like, I gotta say yes, I gotta do this, I gotta do
Oh
this, I
yeah.
gotta move
I
forward.
mean, it's honestly, it's it's I mean, it's like it's almost like desperation, really. I mean, it's there's a desperation to it. And it's like, because it's like this is literally this is it. This is what I asked for. And
Yeah, and
like,
I'm here, and now I
yeah,
don't want it to go away, right?
right, yeah. And the fact of the matter is that like, just like anything else, things ebb and flow. And so like, this go around, um, it's been it has very much been it's been manageable. It's not anything, like it was with the first record, but like it's at a comfortable level for me as
Mhm.
far as like the interviews. And also, I've also like been a lot more in tune with like, you know, when to the best times to, plan an interview. Like I'm going to try not to plan it, while I'm in the middle of like a 5-hour drive. Maybe I shouldn't do that next time. You know what I mean? Like just,
Yeah.
like, you
Well, I
know,
appreciate you making
I
time
mean,
today for me.
it
Thank
was
you.
hands free. It was Bluetooth. For anybody that's curious, it was hands free. But still, how many times do you talk to somebody in the car and like you miss the turn? Like,
Right.
it happens. So
Yeah.
anyway, but yeah. So, but at any rate, yeah, just so the load's definitely lightened, but also I've been able to figure out and manage my time a lot better.
That's huge.
So yeah. But anyway, yeah. So and that really helps with
Mhm.
creativity, because then when you kind of have things sorted and you're keeping up with things and you're just paying more attention to what works for you, then it's like then there's like a sense of freedom at that point where it's like, I don't know, creativity is just um I feel like it's just it has improved immensely,
Yeah.
like I've been doing a lot of writing lately, writing like long form and like, poems and stuff like that. So, I've kind of just, there's no, there's not really a lot of music yet. It's just a lot of writing. So,
Well, you just but I mean, you just
yeah,
put an album out, so it's
yeah,
not like,
yeah, yeah.
with Still and Bright, I mean,
No pressure.
you work
I
with
feel like
Butch
I have to,
Big, I
yeah,
mean, you Butch Walker, which is
yeah,
crazy,
yeah.
I mean, so well, tell me about that, like,
I
with
guess
the
I should give
albums.
myself a break, huh? But
Right, I was gonna say, you just did an album, I don't think you need to work on the
yeah,
next one. I mean,
yeah,
obviously, you're a creative and you
yeah,
wanna keep working and writing and moving forward, but
yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
you put out this amazing album.
yeah.
With this album, was this like going into this versus even maybe passive pop or pensive pop or the album that you put out, Weird and Strange? Like, was this a process of like, do you feel like you had the moment to kind of slow down and write this album, or like were you in that mode of like, let's keep going, let's keep moving forward, like the time management thing, or like what was it like
Well,
working with Butch Walker? Was he more on that page or?
yeah, well, yeah. So I started writing. I had started writing songs for the new record. I think starting in I want to say 2022 or
Wow.
2020, or was it 2022? I feel like that's when it was. Yeah. Um, but wait a minute. Now I'm like stuck on this.
It's all right.
No, it was late 2021 into early 2022. That's it. Okay.
Okay.
I had started writing. I'd like deepened my meditation practice, and I mean that was a huge boost
Mhm.
creatively, I think, during that time. So I really dug into that, and and then um I did co-writes in early 2022. and I wanted to I wanted to do that because I, outside of Our Native Daughters, I hadn't ever co-written
Mhm.
before, at least not for my, for my own music. So and a lot of it is because the songs were very, confessional in nature. So the idea of someone else writing with me on it was, the idea was mortifying for many years. But because those songs were driven by like emotional turmoil and
Mhm.
grief, and I had really worked really hard to work through those things, um, like now I need to, now I need to like figure out how I'm going to write songs because that catalyst is gone. Um, so I went on YouTube and typed in songwriting and just started watching a few a few like songwriting YouTube videos, and eventually I came across a book recommendation for How to Write One Song by Jeff Tweedy, and that was, I mean, it was such a great book, and it really kind of broke down songwriting in such a straightforward, like easy way,
Mhm.
and I think it, and I know for him to be able to do that, I know he had to spend a lot of time thinking about it to be able to write a book about this thin and
Yeah.
say everything you need to say, like just absolutely brilliant. So hats off to Mr. Jeff Tweedy on that.
Oh, I mean,
And
and he
yeah,
like, talk about
so
a great songwriter too, obviously,
yeah,
right, with Wilco
yeah,
and everything else, but,
exactly, yeah. So yeah, and then I got set up with my A&R guy at Rounder, Mark Williams. He helped me set up some co-writes with um he helped me set one up with Butch, who I actually met him at Georgia on My Mind benefit show and at the Ryman,
oh,
and
awesome.
I'd met him there, and we really like dug each other's stuff. We like talked very briefly, but like I just felt like a really cool vibe and energy from him, and I had like a couple of like more like pop rock style songs that I kind of wanted to, that I thought maybe, that I thought he would be really good for, maybe writing with. Um, and so we scheduled a couple of sessions with him, and we wrote Never Alone and I Will Not Go Down, which, the original demos had like, it had my, it had like a fuzzed out, um, Epiphone SG um, guitar. The
Mhm.
guitars on there, so it was like, and I Will Not Go Down had like Iron Maiden style drums, because like we had a discussion about like Iron Maiden and like
Yeah.
symphonic metal and like all that stuff. So and then Never Alone also had like this pretty big like um I mean pretty heavy rock influence in there too, with the fuzzed out guitars. And um it was funny, we had a conversation, and it was talking with Mark, and he was like, you might want to, and I thought it was a good, and then I thought this was a good point. This is where I think when has a someone has a suggestion that's
Mhm.
worked with a lot of artists, like I think that's something that, like, I think taking suggestions like that, like I think that's super important, because what he said was, the way this sounds now, it might be a little too much of a change. Um, because you think about the audience, and
Mhm.
um, you know, so the idea was still have the song with that pop rock element to it, but switch out the instruments. And what ended up happening is we ended up with a bluegrass song, with a progressive bluegrass, like, you know, with my clawhammer banjo thrown in there,
Mm-hmm.
old time meets bluegrass, and it was still, I mean, so yeah, it's like that song definitely had a metal influence, but you know, bluegrass is the metal of folk, so it kind of
I love that.
it
Bluegrass is the metal of folk.
yeah, I mean, it absolutely makes sense, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's all part of the American music family anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a wonder, you know, when people are like, wow, that's crazy that this person mixed, you know, this genre and that genre. It's like, and I can see where people, you know, some people like, I have, sometimes I do, and I certainly don't mean to come off as like, you know, I'm better than anybody, but you know, I just grew up in an eclectic musical household, so the idea of never hearing genre mixing, it was just kind of foreign to me, and I didn't really understand that. But um, but I think what I think is cool though is I love it. I love to see a person's like face light up when they hear like musical fusion like that, and they've never
Mm-hmm.
heard it before. I think it's really cool to see when people are like, "Wow, that's crazy! Like I've never heard that." Like for example, there's this band called Baby Metal,
Oh yeah,
and
I know baby metal.
yeah, and it's like, I mean, you know, it's it's like J-pop meets
Yeah,
like
metal.
legitimate
Shit
heavy
metal.
metal. Like those are
Metal, yeah.
legitimate heavy metal players, and it was
Yeah.
just it's amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, and and actually my fiance turned me on to that band. I listen to a lot more metal than she does, but like that's one of the metal bands that and then I turned her on to Nightwish,
Oh, I
which
love
they're like,
Nightwish too.
yeah.
Yeah.
And Jessica also has a background in classical music too. So like she also appreciates like classical elements, and she likes, you know, musicals and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
so yeah,
I love
but
that.
yeah,
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, because this is the first album that you have a lot of co-write. I mean, you have a co-write with
yeah,
Tim Armstrong. I mean, talk about a legend. I mean,
yeah. No, man, it
how
was
does
so
that
sick to work
happen?
with him. Yeah. Well, um, I uh, I can't remember. I can't remember who reached out to who, because it's been so long. Oh, I mean, so long. It's been like 4 or 5 years. Well, that's a long time for me anyway.
Yeah.
But but yeah, it turned out that he was a big fan of my music,
That's
and
crazy. I mean,
so I met him. So I ended up meeting him at his studio in L.A. And yeah, he's such a great guy. I just really enjoyed talking with him. Um, uh, and you know, we talked a lot about like a kind of like we talked a lot about like just, you know, find a sense of spirituality and that kind of thing. You know, he's been, I think he said he had been in recovery for like, I think over 20 years, and
yeah, he has been.
he still does like the AA sponsor and stuff, AA sponsorships and stuff like that. Like
Mhm.
he's very much involved with that. You know, and you know, again, and I have, you know, my father, you know, he's been in recovery for 14 years, so I know firsthand like you know, how addiction can, you know, affect everybody, you know.
Yeah.
So we really like connected on that. So yeah, he's just a real ass dude, you know. But but yeah, so with the song The People's Prayer, um it was I'd written it as a poem, and it was supposed to kind of be like a like a secular prayer essentially.
Mhm.
And I had written it, and I, you know, hadn't really I mean, I hadn't published it or done anything with it, but it was just something that I knew I one day wanted to put to music, but I just never really got around to it. And I showed the lyrics to Tim, and talked to whatever, told the story about it, um and he came up with the chord progression and with the melody, with the hook. So um
Wow.
yeah, like we just, yeah, I mean, and it happened right there. I mean, we cut like a and cut a demo of it there in the studio, and that was the song. I think within, I guess within a few hours. So, and it was awesome. Like I said, it was just, it was, yeah, it was just, it was super dope. And that was my, I'm pretty sure that was my first, I'm pretty sure that was my first co-write of those co-writing sessions that I did. So
Jeez.
it was pretty powerful first one. And I was like, I I want to co-write forever. This is so awesome. I think I prefer sticking like one on one. I think is my preference. I don't, or two people. I
Mhm.
could do two people. I think three total is about as high as I want to go as far as people in the room, because like I just I just get a little too distracted and overwhelmed if there's too many things
Too many
happening.
cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Just, it's like, if you get, you know, if you get two or three great minds together, that's all it takes. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be crazy. It's just,
Mhm.
that's, and it's kind of funny because I feel like sometimes the songs that have like the most writers seem to not, the words are kind of like, kind of blah, like it's
Yeah,
kind
it
of like,
doesn't
what,
flow right.
like,
Yeah,
yeah,
almost like it
it's
doesn't
like,
flow correctly.
yeah, I'm like, why? I mean, what? I feel like, yeah, I don't know. It's a weird, I don't know. That's a thing. I kept my publishing, so I'm not. I don't think I'm not gonna get caught up in that situation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
that's smart.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I was like, I'm gonna just, yeah. So anyway,
Well, I think the
yeah,
album is amazing, and I mean, speaking of, you know, traveling, you're a couple weeks from now, you're kicking off on a pretty big tour, right? I mean, through the November, and then you got up in December, you got some dates, and in
yeah,
February. I mean,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be a fairly busy, fairly busy holiday.
yeah, you're playing the
You
Grand Ole
know,
Opry, which
but
is, have you ever played there before? That's probably iconic for you as
yeah,
far as, I mean, Chattanooga, or are you from
yeah,
Knoxville or Chattanooga? I think.
Chattanooga originally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, now
No,
you're
yeah,
East
well,
Tennessee, but still, I mean,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nashville,
Yeah. What was I? What was
Grand
I
Ole
gonna?
Opry.
Yeah, yeah. On the Yeah, I did my Opry debut on the in June of 2021.
Okay.
And so this will be my. I think this will be my fifth time
Oh,
now. I
damn.
think.
Okay, you've been there a few
Yeah, I mean,
times.
basically, because after that first time, they were just like, "Hey, anytime you can." So usually, what happens is, I'll, I'll drive in because I live in Johnson City, Tennessee. So I'll drive to Nashville, and then while I'm there, I'll stay for, a few days and do like, you know, promo stuff, or
Mhm.
or capture content, for socials or whatever, and tie that in and go back. So it's, so it yeah,
That's
ends up lining up
exciting.
pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very cool.
So, but
Well,
yeah, I think it was weird because this past holiday it was kind of weird because it was, we were recording, um so like it was a lot more, it was just a lot more calm and chill, but also sometimes it was almost too calm and too chill. Like it was, because when you're used to like moving around so much, sometimes you're just like, oh man, I'm kind of, I was like, I was either in Nashville for a week or two where I was at home, and it was that was kind of a weird thing. But I'm kind of excited to kind of be out and about. I feel like usually seasonal depression has kind of been a thing I've kind of dealt with, but I feel like this go around, like, I'm kind of excited to be out there doing stuff. Yeah, I've got a few weeks off,
Hmm.
here and there, and like into December and stuff like that. But yeah, yeah, I'm super stoked to be able to get back out, especially like I said, especially with these new songs. I'm ready to, yeah, I'm ready to play the whole album
Whole
top to
album.
bottom now. So
Amazing.
so yeah, I'll have to figure out what I'm going to do with that slowly without complaint, because I mean it's more of a vibe than anything. Like, so I don't really know how I'll translate that on guitar. So I got to figure that out. But yeah, anyway, but for the most part, yeah. So it'll be fun.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Well, I appreciate you doing this again. Thank you so much for coming back
yeah,
and chatting. This has been awesome.
yeah.
I asked you this question last time, but I'm gonna ask again if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Oh, well, be patient. Be patient. There is no race. There is no, like, there don't try to set these strict timelines. You got to have this by this time and this by this time. Don't do that. Like, that's like, you have to be patient, because if you make decisions, like, like when you pick your booking agent or pick your manager, if you make really quick, if you don't take time to take in account a person's character before you agree to go into business with them, I've heard so many stories of people, that have been scammed, of artists that get scammed, by booking agents or by their managers, and a lot of it is because they didn't really have a strong business sense, and that's, as a musician, I've absolutely struggled with that before, having to learn about business on the fly. I was fortunate enough to have a dad that was in business management, so that
Mhm.
helped. But even then, it was still hard to put it into practice because I was, you know, a dummy in my 20s. So, but anyway, be patient, and so you can pick the people, so you can pick a team of people that that believe in what you're doing and will support you, and that will be transparent with you, like, and it is worth the wait to wait on that. That is so important. You can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't have people around you that mean you well, you are you're going to end up suffering, so just please be patient and don't rush in and feel like you have to be in a hurry to make it. All good things happen in the time they need to happen, so.
Bringing it backward.